And by way of introduction, I just wanted to get you to think about what you do as a taxonomist. We'll call him George. George is talking to a coworker about a circumstance that he was in, and his coworker said, "You know, George, I really think you better go get some legal advice." So George, that very same day, combed through a phone book or got online and found a local lawyer, and he scheduled a consultation over his longer lunch hour. And he went in and he sat down with the lawyer. It was just he and the lawyer. And after describing his circumstance for maybe 5 minutes, the lawyer stood up. He went over to the window, kind of gazed out with a blank stare for maybe 5 seconds, came back to his bookshelf, scanned it, pulled off one of the volumes, paged through the table of contents, turned a few pages, scanned the page, folded it up, put it back on the shelf and said, "George, this is a slam dunk. There's plenty of precedence for your circumstance. No need to worry at all." George is very relieved. That is until he left the office, went out to the receptionist. She gave him a bill for $350. George thought to himself, $350, this took less than 10 minutes total. And here he charges me $350. So on his way back to the office, he called his coworker and was grousing the whole way back at how expensive this was. But before he arrived back at work, he noticed his car was making a strange grinding noise in the front right section of the engine. So he swung by the local garage. He also knew the technicians and the mechanics that worked there. And he went in and described what was happening. The technician said, "Just leave it with us." He went in, had a cup of coffee, looked through the large glass windows to see them put his car up on the lift. He watched the mechanic. The mechanic pulled and tugged in a few different places once it was up on the lift. Walked over to his computer, made a few keystrokes, went over to the inventory that was on the back wall, pulled down a belt. Probably cost $10.50 for the belt. And within 15 minutes, he was watching through the glass, and the mechanic repaired his car, brought in the keys. George again was relieved until he stepped up to the counter, and the bill for that was $350. Now he gets back to the office and he's thinking about this. I must be in the wrong line of work. Everybody else can do these things in 10 minutes, and here my whole paycheck's gone for the week. So he's thinking about this all afternoon, and finally it was time for him to leave work. And he thought, my ulcer's acting up. And on his way home from work, he stopped at the clinic, stopped to see his doctor. His doctor asked him, "Well, what's wrong? What's going on?" And again, the doctor walked over after he heard all this to his desk reference, opened it up, a couple pages, less than a minute, wrote him a prescription. "Here you go, George." George again's relieved. So he left the office, the clinic. Well, this time it was $225, but nevertheless he got right on the phone and was complaining to his wife the whole drive home about the cost of his day. The question for you all is, what is George missing in his thinking?
Just knowing where to look.
Yeah, right. How many years did it take the lawyer? How many years did it take the mechanic pulling and tugging in all the wrong places on other cars until they learned, either through experience or through their training, exactly where to look? And the other thing he's maybe forgetting is he's remembering maybe the cost of everything, but he's not considering the value of everything. Within one day, he could have all those things taken care of. Look at the convenience and the luxury of that, really, when you stop and think about it. So I think he's confusing, again, the interface and how easy that interface looks based on what's really behind that interface and how long and how complicated it is to really be able to offer that so quickly. So as a taxonomist, when you try to describe to others your value or your worth, I think obviously you've been sent here because someone in your organization or you yourself understand the worth and the value of being able to put your finger on information sources almost immediately. But not everyone does. So when it comes to value, I think I'm preaching to the choir, but we can appreciate the value and the experience that goes into it. And even with thesauri, you're constantly tweaking the rule base, you're making it better. No one sees those hours of work, no one sees what's going on behind the scenes. But again, the interface looks so slick and so easy that people often, again, overlook the value of it. So sometimes it's just reminding people of the value, which is really immeasurable many times, of being able to do the things that we're able to do in a way that appears so effortless. What I hope to cover with you here, although it's called Sources and Standards, I wanted to show you some active online searching. More so you get used to using certain tools, and I didn't know how many librarians we'd have here and how many we wouldn't. So this may be a review for many of you, but again, just bear with me. And feel free to offer things that you too have found. This is an inexhaustive list of things that I'll be giving you, not an exhaustive list. So feel free to contribute resources that you yourself have found. Tools that enable passive online searching. You can control the level and the amount of information that's coming to you. You do not have to drink from the fire hose. I'll show you ways to do that, but also so that you can stay on top of your field. Whatever your field happens to be, you might find that your daily, everyday routines chew up so much of your time, it's difficult for you to read through those journals, read through all the extra to stay on top of what's happening in your field. So I'll introduce you to a few tools that I think might help you there. Some select resources when it comes to taxonomy and ontology and thesauri, and then the standards themselves. Active searching for taxonomy resources, I don't assume that all of you do this full-time, maybe you do, but if you'd like to keep up on articles and recent things that are coming out as far as taxonomy is concerned, you can do that globally in a couple different ways here. How many of you use, I know a lot of you use Google, but how many of you use Google in such a way that you search by domain? Sometimes, maybe. What I would like to share with you are ways that my own searching, online searching, has completely changed. We'll use Google as an example, but if you get in the habit of using these techniques that I'll show you, it doesn't matter what database you're in. When you get the pattern down, you'll kind of almost automatically use them, and I think you'll find that more often than not, the databases will support Boolean searches, for instance, and domain searching, depending again on the search engine. And talking about primary resources, we'll talk about country codes, because how do you define a primary resource? Again, I'm not inviting debate here, but how would you just define primary resources? How important are primary resources in research? Depends on the discipline. Yeah, it may depend on the discipline. But if you want to get as close to the origin, if you want to get to the source of maybe the people or team or person that's produced that, it is very important to get to those primary sources. And I'll show you ways to even use international searching to do that, to find articles and resources and objects that exist elsewhere, but you can easily find those. And then also searching by file type we'll talk about here in a second too. Active searching for taxonomy resources would include some of these following techniques. Again, some of you may be familiar with these. If you're not, don't feel bad if they don't all stick as we go through these in the next, so many minutes. But if you just implement a couple of them, I think you'll find your results a whole lot more pleasing to you and a whole lot more beneficial to you. So even if you don't use all of them, I'll show you ways in which you can incorporate quite a number of them. But if you just use a few of them, you'll notice the difference it can make in your searching. Rather than try to explain these first four, I'll try to demonstrate those here in a moment when we do some active online searching. But as far as Boolean operators go, it's a form of logic. I think most of you are familiar with it, but I'm a visual learner, so I thought I would just show you Boolean searching. When you're looking for something with or, you're saying I want two completely separate data sets. But when you use and, you're bringing two data sets together and you're going to find just the things that are within here. And again, if you add other ands, you're going to keep narrowing and making that little area that you're searching smaller and smaller and smaller, the more ands that you use. Not excludes something. It might exclude these two circles, but it'll keep just what you see over here. So not is not one that's used all that often, but and or will either, again, expand your search or expands your search and makes your search smaller. Any questions on Boolean? So they're called Boolean operators, but if you just remember these three, and or not, I'll show you how those can work. And Google, I think as Jay indicated, it does support that, although you can also go in manually to the advanced search section to make sure that it's recognizing your Boolean operators. But usually when you do capitalize those things, they'll be recognized. When you're trying to phrase match something, you put it in quotations because you want documents, you want objects, you want whatever's been characterized in that exact way to be found. So you're not asking for related thoughts, you're asking for a quotation. You're asking for the exact match. I want things that only will reveal these words. Keyword truncation is a way of backing off a full word. If I had the word bicycle up here and you truncated back to B-I-C-Y-C-L asterisk, you would have bicycles, you'd have bicycling. So that's another way to either expand or limit your search if you truncate those words. And again, I'll show you some examples of that. Wildcards actually exist within a word. If it's woman or women, over the A or in place of the A or the E, you would put an asterisk. And you would find resources that had both, either woman or women. And nesting is putting things in parentheses, and maybe just the best way to describe that is kind of putting it all on an equal plane. You're not trying to say one term within that parentheses is any more important than the next one, but you'd like them all to be considered equally. That's sort of the way I remember nesting. If you go back to that slide with top-level domains and click on actually top-level domains, double-click, you'll be taken to Wikipedia where you've got a list of those domains I was referring to before. Top-level domains are listed first. You already know what they are. Maybe you didn't call them that, but .com, for instance, is a top-level domain. It's commercial. You've got .info for .info. You have .jobs. That is a way to cut down on the number of haystacks you're going to be searching for that needle. So rather than, again, ask Google to search the world for this, you're saying, no, I just want, or .edu, that would be an educational website. Now, can you see advantages to searching by domain, especially like an educational domain? What advantage is there? Especially when you can't always evaluate the websites that come up when you do an online search. Call it pre-filtering or call it eliminating or pre-evaluating websites, because you would expect what from educational websites? College websites, university websites. You'd expect it to be credentialed information, or you'd expect it to be produced by people who have the background and the degree to be able to produce that kind of material. So you can filter your search or pre-filter your searches by these domains. Now if you keep scrolling down that page, you'll see not only the number of domains, but there's 3 USA top-level domains. It's edu, .gov, and .mil. But if you keep scrolling down, you get to the country codes. You can search the internet of a country, or you can combine a top-level domain like a government domain, and you can search a particular country's government domain. And I'll show you of what use that would be in a moment. But they're all listed here. They're just 2 letters. It's whatever it happens to be. .China is .cn. England is .uk. But if you ever need a listing, I just gave you this Wikipedia page. The reason I like it is it has also the flags of the countries, if you're, again, a visual learner. These are shortcuts. When you're searching, convenience is always king. Study after study shows that users are lazy. Does that surprise anyone? You can do the same thing, I'll tell you in advance, you can do the same thing by going into your settings thing and going into your advanced search tools, but why bother? Just do it here. If you're going to a trip to Italy, that was the first example on that page, and let's say you are going to Milan, and you want to know if there's a winery close by to where you're staying. How would you go about searching for something like that? Well, I would suggest this. Site : don't leave any space here, this is very important, .it, which is the country code for Italy. So there's no spaces here whatsoever. Site.it. Now you can make a space, and you're going to be looking for what? Now we might want to truncate winery because you're not sure if you want winery or wineries, right? So truncate wine, put an asterisk after the R because you're looking for wineries or winery. And what else might you be searching for? What are some other words that in English at least would characterize what you're looking at? How about vineyards? V-I-N, and it could be vineyard or vineyards, so just truncate vineyard. And just to be sure, we'll put an and in there. Or do we want an or? Did you catch it? Or. Or would be better, right? Because you're asking for either vineyard or winery. Again, what city are you close to? Let's put in Milan. But now here you can also search by file type. Let's say you're looking for a little movie about vineyards, and you wonder if there's something out there that the Italians have produced. It's maybe a shockwave flash. Now you can type out file type : and then you can put again shockwave flash is SWF. But I suggest you don't need to use file type. Although it is in the advanced tools, you don't need it. So, oh wait, I took out Milan instead. So you can take out file type. You don't need that. Okay, hit your go button. What did you find? Anything? Oh, there is something. We don't know if it's of any use. But when you look at your search results, you can see that everything that's being found is .it. So these are resources being found in Italy, within their country's domain, you might say. Again, of what use is this in other areas? Well, if Arthur's searching for cancer research, he might use the word oncology, or he might use the word cancer, but maybe he wants to see what's going on in China. So he can actually do .gov.cn space, because he wants government resources here, let's say. Or he could have did a .edu. Maybe he wants just university resources. But then he could type in oncology, but he might truncate, take the Y off, because it could be oncologies or oncological or something. And then he could also just put in there the word cancer, and he might do an and, or he might do an or, because he wants to find just those Chinese resources. And when they come up, if you do a search like that, you can immediately translate it. At other times, you can take that whole URL and you can take it to Translate, or Google Translate, for instance, and have the whole website translated for you. The reason for doing that, and the reason for maybe even searching Wikipedia in a different language, can you see any advantages of searching Wikipedia in a foreign Wikipedia site? Let's say you know French. Wikipedia is formed by whom? The users. So you have totally different users in France than you do in the US, right? Even though you have the same concepts and the same entries, for instance, you're going to have different people writing the articles, different references at the bottom. So if you know a foreign language, or you can simply translate that URL, you can search other Wikipedia pages, find other resources that might deal with the same thing. And that would apply to taxonomy. We'll get back to taxonomy and thesauri in a second. But I just wanted to show you what's possible here when it comes to doing searching like that. Let's say you want to find a PowerPoint, and I talked about primary resources. Maybe you want a complete view of something, and you don't just want the US version of it. When you search the UN, you can try this. I'm not going to type it in myself, but try it. Do a cite, colon, dot, immediately, no space, un.org. Now you can make a space because you're searching the United Nations website for, let's say, information on Afghanistan, but let's put war there and US or something like that, or and Russia. Maybe you want to investigate previous information dealing with Russians being in Afghanistan. What did the UN have to say about that? Then you could also search the Afghanistan website and say, well, what do the Afghanis have to say about this? And then you could also search again a US database using the same search, but coming up with different resources, primary resources, that you can then compare, and your research is going to be a whole lot more balanced. It's going to have a lot more primary resources versus secondhand information. And just to show you how detailed you can get here, if you go back to a site search, let's try a military.mil. Let's say you read something about a body count in Iraq that you didn't believe. And you heard it from a credible newspaper, but you had questions about it. And you say, I'd really rather have some primary resources. Let's go to the military and find out what they've revealed about body counts. Now, here you might do some nesting because you're looking for, well, let's put Iraq. Let's nest, though, the words that you would have to use to find deaths. What other words would you use instead of just deaths? Casualties, right? Fatalities. So let's do death or fatality, F-A-T-A. And it could be fatality or fatalities, so just, I don't know, truncate after the T. Or bodies, I suppose, body counts. As gruesome as that is, nevertheless, when you're searching for that, you might want to, again, expand what you're looking for. You could go on from here and still do ethical things that sometimes reveal some rather interesting things. If we want to get an analyst's attention in Virginia, we could add here in title, colon. Now what you're asking for is a document or a piece of information that's going to have within the title, let's say, internal. Maybe they didn't want this to actually get out to the public, but it got indexed somehow anyway. That happens more often than you might realize. Again, it's an ethical way to search, but it is intrusive. And maybe there's nothing out there anyway. That's why these are called strategies. Sometimes you'll find 6 results.
Eric, can you, for those of us who are visually challenged and don't have our binoculars,
Yes.
can you read what you got?
Can I enlarge that somehow?
Well, I don't think so.
Let's see.
Does the order in which you type that in matter?
Usually what you put in first is going to have heavier weighting. That's what you're asking is your most important thing I want to have is this. So you put that first. And then as you trickle down to the right, I think most search engines prioritize searching that way. Unless you're dealing with something like Israel, a foreign language that would have the opposite direction. You might have, again, a totally different way of searching and something like that. But and let's say you even wanted a PowerPoint on this. Like I said before, you can very much pinpoint what you're looking for. Let's say you want some PowerPoint, which would be .ppt. That didn't turn up anything, so there are no PowerPoints that you can view. But those are some examples, and I listed finding official pics as another example here. What would you do with official pics? You're trying to find pictures of Prince Henry playing polo, and you want them to be official. Where are you going to look? Yep, cite, UK.gov, because you want it coming right from the government, right? You don't want these to be paparazzi shots. You want these to be ones that were staged by the government. They're official photos. You want to put them up on your teacher website or something. And you would, again, do a .uk.gov, and then you want to put in quotations, Prince Harry. You only want Prince Harry photographs. So you put that in quotations. And then, well, what are photographs in? You might say point JPEG or .jpg. So they could be .jpegs or they could be, well, both of those are JPEGs. But you're asking for a specific type of photograph. So type that in. What did you get? You should get about 1 or 2 hits on that. And you should find the British official government website. Did you find it?
Found a Prince Harry photo on eBay.
Oh, on eBay. So it's for sale. It's for sale. But again, when you're looking for things, if you just type in taxonomy, maybe you've done this, what do you find? Maybe even truncate it. Maybe you just take your Google site, you type in I'm looking for things about taxonomy. So you say TAXONOM, and then you hit an asterisk. What do you find? You find a whole lot of nothing as far as what you're looking for, because you'll find Bloom's taxonomy of, biology. You'll find all kinds of things in there. But you could do a Boolean not. With Google, you just put a minus sign and you put minus Bloom, and you'll find more of what you're looking for. But I'll give you some examples of that as we go on. But I just wanted to show you what's possible, even with Google, and finding things by domain or by country code that can still be useful to you, especially as a taxonomist if you're wondering what other people in the world are doing, because you'll find some very good resources, especially in other parts of the world, that deal with the same. And because taxonomies deal with concepts, it transcends language. Because, right, when you're thinking of a concept, that is the whole thinking behind a taxonomy. Concept, then you find your term. So the term isn't the most important thing, the concept is the most important thing. So the language, if you can transcend the language, you can still find an awful lot of good things out there. But the question mark under number 5 is your test for today, and there's a prize. So I'm going to time you. Tell me the name of the most expensive coffee in the world. And I don't want it in pounds, I want it in dollars, by the pound. And tell me what part of the world that most expensive coffee comes from. If you find things with an elephant, I won't accept them. And if you find things from just one website like Wikipedia, I won't accept it. You'll have to tell me how credible your sources are for this. So chances are you're not going to do it with one search, but go see what you come up with. When you think you've got all 3, I'm looking for price, I'm looking for the area of the world, and I'm looking for the name of the coffee. First one to give me all 3 of those from credible sources wins the prize. And hopefully you like coffee. If you don't, you'll have to give it away.
We're talking about the cinnamon coffee.
I can't give you too many hints. I'll just let you go with it. The most expensive coffee in the world. Where is it harvested, or where is it grown?
Indonesia.
And how much per pound? Charlotte's getting real close here, folks. Alice, you're getting close, huh?
$30 to $100 in New York City, and roasted beach can fetch as much as $130 in Indonesia.
You sure that's by pound or by cup?
That's by cup.
Yeah.
1 kilogram of roasted beef.
Nope, not kilogram, on pounds.
Okay, $65 a pound.
That's pretty good. Where did you find that?
I typed in world's most expensive coffee, or most expensive coffee in the world, and I got an article on it immediately.
But what website is it from? How do you know it's credible?
Time World, Time Magazine, World.
I think that's credible enough. Sure, I suppose.
I didn't do it your way. I just typed in, words.
Yeah.
But I'm prepared. I don't drink coffee, but I have heard this before, so I consider it.
If you want to pre-filter things and make sure you're going to the best places, how would you suggest going about it? Charlotte said she just typed in some words. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. But how would you go about it? I would put in parentheses, or I would put in quotation marks, most expensive coffee. I would then, though, put in URL, coffee. Now what does that do? Well, it's only going to be combing through websites that have the word coffee in the URL. Now why is that an advantage? Because whoever put that website up and named it coffee something, you would expect it would have some credibility or have some resources there that are can be evaluated. So that's how I would search for that. I would put in URL and then I would put coffee, but then I would add after that a US dollar sign. And then I would put LB for pound or something like that. And that again filters and it pinpoints. It's the difference between hunting with a shotgun versus hunting as a sniper. You want just those tiny singular resources. It's not going to waste your time combing through a million results that you get.
And why is it so expensive?
Why is it so expensive? I didn't ask you about the harvesting of it, but these civets eat the berries, digest them, or take off the outer shell of the coffee cherry. And what a coffee bean actually is like a little pit. It's like a little peach pit. And Charlotte, I think you pretty much won it. So I'll give you, no, this was not harvested in any way close to the way it was.
Is it coffee?
This is just green beans that I roasted myself. But,
Okay, can I be so kind as to give it to somebody who actually drinks coffee?
That's why I asked you. If you
I
don't
can't
drink
stand
coffee, you're
this
going to have to give this away.
Yeah.
Or I'll give you another challenge by the end of the day. Who'd like another challenge? We'll do another challenge by the end of the day.
She's a tea person.
I knew I should have brought tea. It's most expensive tea. You could have done that one.
Tea we can do.
But getting back to our slides here and taxonomy, tools that can enable passive searching. I still call it passive searching. If you double click on email alerts,
I have to say your in URL coffee $sign and pound got a lot of hits, but it did not get me in the top page anything close to the thing I found with natural language processing.
so I didn't tell you everything. I would also put 2 dots between the dollar signs, and I would have added a couple things. But at least it shows you what's possible.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure your way is better.
But if you click on that first entry for alerts, many of you are maybe familiar with Google Alerts, but the advantage here is the same kind of operators and tools that I just showed you, you can use as a search query. Because let's say you want to find out about ontologies, and I truncated ontology because it could be ontologies, but I'm going to use some Boolean operators. Actually, we'll do or. Thesauri. Truncate that. Thesaurus or thesauri. Actually, go back one. Or classification, or machine classification. You could add other descriptors here. In classifications or classification. And you're looking again for articles, but you go down to that second bar and it'll ask you, do you want everything? Do you want PowerPoints? Do you want articles? And you say, sure, I want to know what's out there. How often do you want Google to, blast your inbox? Well, if you want that once a day, it's going to tell you everything it combed that day that came up with these search terms. And again, if you don't want your inbox flooded with that, you can choose once a week. I often will choose once a week because you get a nice list at the end of the week that you can either delete. Let's say you don't even have time for it. You say, I'm just not going to look at this week. You can just delete the whole thing. Otherwise, it'll have hyperlinks in there that'll take you right to the articles. So you say once a week, And you can put in any email. It doesn't have to be a Gmail account, but you can put in any email that you'd like this research to come into. If you're like me, you have a few decoy emails that you use. When you do orders and things, you make up an email somewhere that's free, and you just have all your junk mail go there, so you're not bombarded with it in your best email. But you can put in any email account there, and then you just create that alert. And again, if you did it by the week, at the end of the week on that page, it'll ask you, do you want to continue this alert? Do you want to manage these alerts? You can, I've had up to, I don't know how many going at once, but you can eliminate them, you can refine them, you can find out if they're bringing you the kind of material that you want. And again, that's a free of charge type of thing provided by Google. Try it, see if you like it. Current awareness dashboards are similar, and I'm back to the slide deck now. If you double click that current awareness, I gave you Net Vibes, it's called. Is anybody familiar with this? It's kind of replaced iGoogle, if you used to use iGoogle as like a dashboard. If you go to I'm Just Me, let's get started, this will cost you nothing. And so you go down to the free basic, click on that. It'll say, oh, you want to create a new dashboard, or what topic are you interested in? They've got their presets. Maybe you're doing financial research or health research. If you scroll down, you'll see the different options they give you. Or you can do very, again, pinpointed like taxonomy, or let's say enterprise taxonomy. I've come up with a whole lot better results with, let's say, enterprise taxonomy. And again, you can truncate, you can use quotations, you can use all of the other operators, and you can use different languages here, if English is a second language for you, and then just hit dashboard it. And I'll show you what happens. It creates for you this dashboard that, depending how you've got it set up, there's a reader at the top. Can you see where I'm pointing up here at this reader? It will give you articles. Let's see, reader view. Or you can list them if you like getting things in a list. Or you can go over here at the top. You've got all your different settings for things. But again, you can have a whole lot of these different dashboards that will bring you social media. You know, what are people tweeting about taxonomies or thesauri? It'll bring you Bing results, it'll bring you Google results, it will bring you newspaper results, it'll bring you journal results. Just try that, have fun with it. It doesn't cost you anything if you do it as an individual. If you want to do it as part of your industry, though, there's additional costs. RSS feed readers. If you click on that, I just gave you a summary of different readers that are out there that you might want to play with. They too will bring you information. You don't have to hunt it down. You just tell Google or whoever else to look for this, and they just keep bringing it to you. And you can, again, either turn it off if you don't want that much, or you can refine it. But I also wanted to show you journal table of contents resources, and I didn't realize we'd have so many publishers here. You're probably already familiar with some of these. But let's say you're trying to keep up on terminology within your field, but you don't want to order all those journals and you don't have time to read all those journals. You just want to look at the table of contents. How important are table of contents? They're the latest, greatest articles coming out, right, with the latest, greatest terminology within that field. So you can just scan those table of contents if you're a taxonomist to find out, you know, maybe the same terms keep popping up that you don't even have as part of your taxonomy, but you realize now everybody in the field's using it. And like Jay said, it doesn't happen overnight, but if you notice over 6 months or a year. And these two can be from different publishers. You can choose which publishers you want to receive. You can choose which journals you want to receive. And many of these are free services, like I said before, that will take it to your inbox. And I think you can schedule it by month, or whenever those journals come out, and you will get a constant feed for things that are happening within your field. Springer was another one. I'm just going to keep this on the side because I keep toggling back and forth anyway. Other techniques, and I don't say this lightly, the best website in the world is refdesk.com. Why? If you like a one-stop shop, why go to Target, Kmart, when you can just go to, what? Walmart. It's got everything. This website, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to just browse it, but I like to go to the debt clock from time to time. It's up here at the top. You get real time here. This is fun. And it's not going down. But if you're, again, teaching certain things, you need real time evidence to show people. This website is just a gem. But I just showed you the first click. If you scroll down that website, you can get every headline from every world newspaper on a single page. You can find out what Al Jazeera is talking about today in English. You can find editorials by your most notable folks as you scroll down. The other thing is wordplay. If you like a lot of wordplay, you can get a word a day here. You can go to dictionary.com. You can go to all different sorts of resources, and even on your left-hand side. Again, the nice thing about this site is not only that it has so much rich content, but the content is vetted. It's not garbage that somebody threw up there. Someone, in many cases, it's reference librarians have selected what they consider to be the most reliable information that you can find. So you don't have to do all that evaluation. It's already been done for you. But the columnists and commentators that I mentioned before, if you want to know what's being written today about these things, on the left-hand side, as you keep scrolling down, you'll see science services. You'll see being able to search Google News on the right-hand side. The fact that you can change between languages is also down in the center as you go past that part that has the pictures. But just take a look at the wealth of data you have all at one site. I know a lot of journalists use this site. So again, if they're concerned at all about their credibility, much of what you'll find here is very credible information. But you come down even to social sciences under here, the RefDesk subject category, so it has a directory. If you're looking for something like libraries, or computer software, or computer hardware, if you click on that, you'll find, again, vetted listings of things that are going to help you find what it is that you're looking for. And again, terminology is important when we're doing the work that we do in understand. And you've got Strunk's Elements of Style on the bottom. Towards the left, you'll find other resources that if you do editorial work or library work, or if you like Sudoku or Snopes, you want to check something, Snopes.com is down there, links to that. Letterman's Top 10, if you didn't want to stay up, wonder what they are, there you go. So I think you'll find that to be I found it to be one of the richest resources I've ever seen before. Coming back to other tricks you can use, and again, these were within Google, but if you find a real good website that has something about taxonomy, let's say accessinnovation.com, you can just, in a Google box, hit related, www.accessin.com. What will come up are related sites that deal with the same industry as Access Innovations. Why would I tell you how to find the competition? Because it's not hidden out there, and we're so confident of our product anyway, if you've ever used it, go ahead and compare it to other products. You'll see how beneficial it is to use it. There's other things that'll do the same thing. If you want to find out what's linked to a particular site, and you say, well, who's supporting this site, and how credible is this site? Sometimes just by the links you can realize it's been backed by the Wall Street Journal, or it's backed by so-and-so, or it's linked to that, and that sometimes shows you the credibility of a site also, and it's quick. You don't have to do full searches as to who created this site, when was it renewed. Similar sites, I'll warn you, has a lot of ads, but the content isn't bad. The content is different than what you'd find in Google. I'm not sure exactly what it's combing, but it will find similar sites. And again, if it's thesauri creation or if it's software for creating taxonomies, you can find other sites that will kind of bring all that together for you so that you don't have to do individual searching. It'll just kind of link you to different things. Any questions up to this point? I know I'm going through some of these quickly, but like I said, you've got this on your thumb drive. You can spend as much time with these, and I'll be around this week if you have questions about any of these. And maybe you have ones you'd like to offer too. But when it comes to word and phrase etymology, again, there's a lot of different ones out there. But I like ask define because as you scroll down, and if you do any, I put in the word taxonomy here. Why? Because as you scroll down, you'll see related terms for taxonomy. So if you're searching for other or even foreign language terms that you'd like to use, and you don't want to remap your keyboard to be able to write Arabic, you just cut and paste. So if you go down, keep going down past related terms, you'll see various foreign terms that describe the same thing. And this kind of dictionary is good for that reason. That's why I like it. It'll give you foreign language terms that you may not have thought of. As far as quick research, back to the slides, if you double click on the quick, if you do a lot of researching, a lot of terms, a lot of cross-disciplinary things, and you say, I have no idea what that term means, this searchlet.io is something you can highlight in a document, and you can keep it up in your toolbar. I didn't load it on here, but I'll show you what happens when you, when you just highlight the word Snapchat. What appears suddenly on the left are Wikipedia descriptions. You've got different things that will immediately, or you can limit it according to the top, if you want just Google sources or something, or just Wikipedia. It will give you a quick summary of what that word is, or what are there synonyms for this I should be thinking of? Are there different concepts I would want to include in this? It's just one of those real quick, handy things. If you do a lot of different research and you want quick definitions of words without having to toggle back and forth all the time, all you have to do is highlight something in a document and click it in your toolbar, and you've got immediate definitions sitting there for you. There are blogs about taxonomy work, thesauri. Some of those are archived. I gave you an older one there as your first hyperlink. But you've heard of taxonomy boot camps. I also put a link in there for that. And if you click presentations, you'll come up to a website called Taxonomy Strategies. So you can also search for, by URL, taxonomy websites. Let's search the world for taxonomy websites. Well, you could just put in their URL, in URL.taxonomy. But like I said, you don't always come up with the taxonomies we're looking for, enterprise taxonomies. But you can find, again, information retrieval technologies. If you scroll down this, you'll find just a ton of resources and references at the bottom that have a lot of links to other things you might want to investigate. A metadata and taxonomy seminar. I know some of you are metadata librarians. Things that you can, again, bring together as far as taxonomy work and other fields of interest that you're also working in or that you have to work in. The reason I quoted this particular one, you'll notice most of the resources are from 2013, so they're very recent things. You don't necessarily want something from 2005. You want something that was written within maybe the last year. So I found that to be a fairly good resource. Software comparisons, back to your slide deck, if you double click on that, it'll take you to our own taxobank.org. And if you scroll down that page, you'll come up eventually to a comparison of all the different taxonomy softwares. And Leonard Will is the one who started this type of comparison that we continued and expanded after his initial entries. So the more you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll find that some of these are from educational resources, some of them are free, some of them are limited to more just taxonomy. They're not going to have rule bases or any kind of depth to it. But if you're just trying to come up with a list or something, there's ways to do that. And I just listed here all the websites and phone numbers and costs, if they gave the costs at their websites, is about taxonomy creation or thesauri creation and maintenance. The Open Directory projects, if you're looking again for things online that deal with this particular field, dmaz.org is a good place to go because, again, you'll find like 45 references, you can see it here, that are going to deal with ontologies. Again, it's vetted information. If you're looking about things about the semantic web, topic maps, again, reference information, linguistics, semantics, again, you can expand this or you can actually click on these and refine them and facet them. You might find something like that also of use if you're looking for information about what you're doing as a taxonomist. Best of the Web is another one that if you click on, it will give you ontology software. If you look over here, it'll tell you how it's actually classifying this. It's under knowledge representation. So that's helpful to know because, oh, maybe I don't really want to search for taxonomies or be that narrow. Maybe I want to investigate knowledge representation because then it's going to talk about terms. It might even give visual maps. And then you're more into the idea of ontologies because right after that comes the word ontology. But there's published ontologies that you can compare or check out. On the left-hand side, you've got, again, software that deals with this. Chimera, Ontolingua. Some of these I'm not all that familiar with myself. And if you go back to your slides, just a couple more here. Sources and standards, taxonomies, special interest groups. You want to talk to other taxonomists or you want to know where to find them. The American Society for Indexing, Alice and I were just talking about this before, but over here on this side you'll find resources, you'll find articles, you'll find events coming up. You'll find definitions, you'll find other things that again deal with control vocabularies, sometimes it's just CV you'll see, or taxonomy, but you'll find a whole ton of resources that you can either follow up with or contact people, experts. We talked about that before, finding experts in the field outside of what we offer even here. You've got those resources. Taxo Diary is again produced here. You'll get the latest information feeds. Jay just mentioned this earlier today. Recent posts, if you scroll down, you'll find insights and well, here's the Miles Conrad Award that Jay had been talking about before. So you can keep in touch with us in that way, or you can keep information coming from us in this way if you check that regularly. There's also best practices by our own Barbara Gillis. It's again a Taxo Diary resource. There's also a Special Libraries Association Taxonomy Division. If you click on that, it'll take you to the SLA.org website. And you can read about the new Taxonomy Division, how you could get involved with that, how you could find resources from them. ASIST was mentioned. One that we didn't speak about was KM World. If you click on KM World, Knowledge Management World, again it has an insight search box where if you just want to target articles that have been produced by KM World, they produced a lot of them, dealing with thesauri, dealing with taxonomy, you can use that kind of a search box, and I think you'll find a whole wealth of information there. Also current information. For instance, on the left here, Taxonomy Bootcamp. It's listed right there this year, coming up on November 4th. You'll find our particular field well represented here. The Taxonomy Warehouse is another resource dealing with other producers of software, ontology software as well, but you'll find resources here too that may be of use to you. Example taxonomies. Some of those are offered again without charge for people to look at. And Green Chameleon is a website that has, again to the left, a lot of resources that are in printed form that you can read about. And if you scroll down there, you'll even find short little web clips. I think one of them was Taxonomy Fairy Tales, which is a little humorous. But if you're looking for things, some of them were based in Australia here, I think it is. But
He's in Singapore.
Singapore, is it? Okay. You'll find, yeah, there was another one from, I thought it was Australia. But you'll find some resources here also. Letting Facets Fly, for instance, Taxonomy and Knowledge Audit Workshops, all kinds of things there. If you like to read books, I listed a few monographs here. One's called Building Enterprise Taxonomies by Darren Stewart. It's a book that presents how to design, create, apply, and maintain structured vocabularies, including taxonomy, thesauri, ontology, and folksonomy, especially for digital information. How vital that content creators speak the same language as their users. Heather Hedden, author of The Accidental Taxonomist, classic read, a comprehensive guide on how to create terms, express term relationships, everything you need to know there also about creating your taxonomies. Again, organizing, you can tell this comes from across the pond by the way they spell organizing, but it is dealing with the same work coming from Patrick Lamb. The dynamic taxonomies, and faceted search, how do these things, how do they take on a more dynamic form so they're not just a static list of things, or if someone's searching in a particular narrow area, how taxonomies can expand for them. This is a rather, well, it was a new one to me when I discovered it, but Structures for Organizing Knowledge, Exploring Taxonomies, Ontologies, and Other Schema. But what I found intriguing was the social aspect of taxonomy development, and how that can be used, which you, again, may be interested in because it highlights digital information. There's also facets of knowledge organization, the proceedings that came out of the Second Biennial Conference in London, offers specific topics discussed which include computer-assisted abridgment of classification schemes, the power of metadata in academic resource discovery systems, music indexing and retrieval, and how doctors apply semantic components to specify searches and work-related information retrieval. Over 50 authors contributed to this, and you'll find a lot of different information to help you there. I'll pause before we get to some of the standards that were mentioned earlier today. Did anybody have anything, at least up to this point, about something to contribute that maybe you found was useful, or anything you'd like me to go back to? I know it's an awful lot of information all at once. Cognitive load theory, you've heard of that, right? Information overload. Alice.
I would say that Heather Hedden has a blog that is also...
Oh, I did not list that, thank you. So you could probably find her blog. Do you know where that's located offhand?
If you look at Hedden Information Management...
Yeah, it could be off her own website, right? Or, yeah. As far as the standards themselves go, these were mentioned before, but the way I arranged them here was the first entry, the acronym itself. If you double click on the acronym, it just takes you to Wikipedia. So you say, I want to know about this organization. What is ANSI? That'll just take you to a Wikipedia article that will tell you what it is. This will take you to their actual website. So I hyperlink that to the website that you would want to go to download or to order those standards or read those standards for yourself. The critical information here is at the bottom as far as what exactly you're looking for once you get in there. Those would either deal with taxonomy creation or thesauri, interoperability, and how because they're standardized, you're able to move within platforms without losing all your information. So those are important standards to use when you create something, because you know eventually you're going to have to probably move it or migrate it to something else or expand it in some way, and you don't want all that information to be, you don't have to reinvent all that information necessarily. Also, the ISO and the British standards I listed here in the same way. If you click on the first entry, you'll find the Wikipedia information about the organization. If you click on that second part, it will take you to the organization's website itself. To be honest with you, I'm not as familiar with these standards as someone like Alice, so if you have any specific questions about standards, I can help you find stuff, but I may not know off the top of my head what it is that you're looking for exactly. One final one I listed here is the Networked Knowledge Organization Systems from Kent State. If you click on the hyperlink, the first acronym I have underneath that, it takes you to the website. And there's a lot of good information here about some of the most recent developments within, again, metadata application, evaluating taxonomies. There's an interesting way to evaluate, more than one way to evaluate, but talking about some of the same things we did earlier today. Synonym rings, you'll start to see some of the same terminology, and you'll be able to find, hopefully, once you familiarize yourself with some of these sites, what it is that you're going to find most useful in your niche of where you work. So some of these, again, most of them they don't go back too far. 2008 I see as one of the older resources, but many of them are recent resources that would be of use to you. Not too stale yet. And that pretty much concludes the slides that I had for you. So the recap and takeaway is, again, active and passive online searching. Again, maybe you had some tools or discovered some tools you'd like to try. Some of those select resources that I mentioned that deal specifically with ontologies or taxonomies or thesauri, and then the standards.